She was left behind, and no one cared except one human. Smoke filled the sky as the alien ship lifted off. Its engines roared like a storm, pushing dust and rocks into the air. Tala held her small child close, wrapping her arms around him tightly. She shouted, coughed, cried, but the ship didn't stop. It didn't even look back. Her people, the Zilani, had left her behind. They had promised safety, a new world, a better life. But when they saw that her child was sick, they changed their minds. We cannot risk the mission, the commander had said. He will slow us down. Then they turned away. Tala had begged, fallen to her knees. My child can get better, she cried. He just needs time. But no one listened. No one cared. Now the sky was empty. The sound of the engines had faded silence, except for her son's breathing, soft and shallow in her arms. Z, her only child, her heart. He looked up at her with tired eyes. Are we safe now, Mama? He whispered. She forced a smile. Yes, we are safe, she said, even though it was a lie. The city around them was broken. Tall buildings leaned like tired giants. The streets were cracked, filled with strange plants and forgotten machines. This place was once a human city, destroyed during the war. Tala had never been here before. Now it was her prison. She searched the ruins for food, water, anything, but there was nothing useful. Z was hungry, cold, and weak. His skin, usually soft blue, was pale and dry. He needed help. Fast, Tala sat by a burned tree, holding Z against her chest. She sang a song from her world. A lullaby her own mother used to sing. Her voice shook. Her throat dry. She knew they wouldn't last long. Suddenly, a sound came from behind her. A crack, like a foot on broken stone. She turned fast, heart racing, eyes wide. Was it an animal? A soldier? A shadow moved between two walls. Then she saw him, a man, tall and strong, walking slowly toward her. He wore old human armor, scratched and dusty. He had a long jacket, gloves, and a backpack. In his hand was a metal rod, maybe a weapon, maybe just a walking stick. His face was rough, beard growing, eyes sharp but tired. Tala stood up quickly, shielding Z with her body. Her other hand reached for a rock. She didn't know what humans did to survivors. She had heard stories, some true, some not. Some said humans were cruel. Others said they were kind. She didn't want to find out the hard way. But the man didn't raise his weapon. He didn't shout or attack. He just stopped a few steps away and looked at her. At her child. Are you hurt? He asked, his voice low and calm. Tala didn't answer. She couldn't trust him. Not yet. I saw the ship leave, he said, nodding to the sky. They left you behind. Still, she said nothing. She could barely stand, her knees weak, her hands shaking. Then he did something strange. He reached into his bag slowly, carefully, and pulled out a small bottle. He placed it on the ground between them and stepped back. Water, he said. Tala stared at it. Her throat burned with thirst. Z needed it even more. But it could be a trick. I don't want to hurt you. The man said, if I did, I wouldn't be talking. His words made sense. But her heart still beat fast. After a long moment, Tala stepped forward. She picked up the bottle, sniffed it, then tasted. It was clean, real water. She helped Z drink first, then drank the rest herself. Tears filled her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. Her voice cracking. The man gave a small nod. He looked at her and the boy for a long time, then said, I have more at my camp. You can come or not. Up to you. He turned and walked away, slowly, giving her space. Tala looked down at Z, who was already breathing easier. He was alive for now. She looked at the sky, then at the path where the human walked. She didn't know if it was safe, but she knew staying here meant death. With a deep breath, she stood and followed him. Not because she trusted him, but because he was the only one who had shown her kindness. And right now, kindness was more than she ever hoped for. Ben walked ahead, not looking back. He could still hear their footsteps, soft, cautious, weak. He didn't blame her. If he were her, he wouldn't trust anyone either, especially not a human. The war had ruined everything. Aliens had come to Earth, claiming they wanted peace, but peace turned into control, and control turned into war when it ended. Nobody really won. Cities burned, nations broke, and survivors. Scattered, Ben had made a rule. Stay alone, stay alive. No one to protect, no one to lose. That's how he had survived for years. But now, there was her, and her sick child. Aliens, no less. He should have walked away. He should have watched that alien ship fly off and laughed. But when he saw the woman cryerly cry, he felt something break inside. So he gave her water, and now she was following him. He didn't know why he cared, but he did. Tala clutched Z to her chest, watching the human carefully. He moved through the ruins like a ghost, quiet. Fast, knowing every shadow. She had never seen anyone move like that. He wasn't just surviving. He was hunting, listening, avoiding danger before it even showed up. She was scared, yes, but not of him. She was scared he might leave. They reached a small broken building covered in vines. It looked empty, dead, forgotten. But Ben stopped near the back wall and kicked a piece of metal. It opened like a door, revealing a dark space below. He looked at Tala and said one word. Down. She hesitated, but Z was shivering. She stepped down into the hole, her body tense. Inside, the air was warm, dry, a fire pit, clean blankets, canned food, tools, even light. It was a real shelter, a real home. Ben followed and closed the door, making the world above disappear. Tala didn't speak. Just sat in a corner, rocking Z gently. The boy was burning with fever, and his skin was turning gray-blue. Ben looked at them and sighed. He dropped his bag and pulled out a small black box. Inside were pills, syringes, wraps, human medicine. Old but still good. He's sick, Ben said quietly, kneeling near them. I don't know what your kind takes, but this might help. Tala's eyes widened. Human medicine. For her child. Why would he give it to her? Why risk it? She nodded slowly, letting him come closer. Ben worked fast, his hands careful, but sure. He cleaned the boy's skin, gave him something to drink, and injected a small dose of antibiotic. Z didn't even cry. He was too weak. Hours passed. Tala sat beside her son. Whispering thanks in her own language, Ben sat near the fire, sharpening a knife. The silence between them was heavy but not angry, just full of things they didn't know how to say. You don't talk much, Ben finally said. Tala looked up, surprised. I don't know your words well, she replied slowly. You're doing fine, Ben said, then paused. Why did they leave you? Tala looked down, pain flashing in her eyes. My child was born. Not strong, she said. Doctors said. He was a waste. Ben shook his head. Some people think strength is only muscle, he muttered. They're wrong. The fire crackled softly. Tala stared at him. You hate my kind, she said, not as a question, but as a fact. Ben didn't answer for a long time. Then he said, I did. Tala waited, but now, he added, I don't know. She didn't press, but she noticed something in his face, an old sadness, deep and quiet. Something had happened to him. During the war, something terrible. Later, while Z slept, Tala explored the shelter. She saw pictures on the wall, faded photos of a smiling woman and a child. Both human. She touched one, then stepped back as Ben entered the room. That was my family, he said simply, they're gone. Tala didn't know what to say, so she bowed her head. I'm sorry. Ben didn't reply, but he didn't look angry either. He just looked tired. That night, Tala couldn't sleep. She sat by Z, listening to his breath. It was a little stronger now. Maybe the medicine was working. Maybe this human had saved her son. She looked across the fire at Ben, who was already asleep with a knife under his hand. He had every reason to hate her, to walk away, to leave them, to die. But he didn't. He helped. He stayed, and Tala began to wonder something strange. Maybe not all humans were monsters. Maybe one of them was something else, something rare, a protector. The ground shook. It started as a soft hum, like thunder far away. Then it grew louder, deeper, as if the sky itself was growling. Tala jumped to her feet, holding Z tight. Ben was already outside, scanning the sky with cold eyes. Something was coming, and fast. A massive ship broke through the clouds, sleek, dark, and silent. It didn't look like the one that abandoned her. No, this one was heavier, built for war. Tala's heart leaped. Maybe they came back. Maybe someone changed their mind. Maybe they came to take her and Z home. She ran toward the clearing, waving her arms. Here, Z cried. I'm here. Please. Ben shouted from behind. Tala, stop. But she didn't listen. She kept running, full of hope. And then the ship opened its doors. A roar filled the air. Not a welcome, not a rescue, but weapons charging. Tala froze as a red beam fired down, not at her, but nearby. The ground exploded. Fire and dust everywhere. Ben tackled her and Z just in time, rolling them behind a broken wall. She coughed, eyes wide with terror. They fired at me, she whispered. Ben pulled her close, his voice tight. They weren't aiming at you. They're not here for you. The ship hovered above the ruins, scanning, searching. Ben pulled out a small device and flipped a switch. A signal jammer. He threw a blanket over Z to muffle his heat signature. Then grabbed Tala's hand. We move, now, he said. No room for argument. They ran through alleys, broken tunnels, and collapsed buildings. Tala's heart was racing, not just from fear, but confusion. Why would her own kind attack her? Why would they come back and still leave her behind? Inside a half-buried garage, Ben stopped and slammed the door shut. He locked it and placed a mirror near the vent to watch the skies. Tala sat down, shaking, holding Z, who was starting to wake up again. He looked up at her and said softly, Is the ship going to take us home, Mama? She didn't answer. She couldn't lie anymore. They're scanning for tech, Ben said. Pulling out his old communicator, they're not here for people. They're looking for something. Tala looked up, confused. What do you mean? Ben turned the device in his hands. They want something buried here. He said, something valuable. The ship moved slowly across the sky, passing over ruined towers. Then circling back, Ben narrowed his eyes. They're not searching for survivors, he said. They're salvaging. Your people didn't come back for you. They came back for junk. The truth hit Tala like a cold wave. She looked down at Z, who now lay quietly in her lap. He had nearly died. And no one cared. No one from her world anyway, except maybe this human, this stranger. He had saved Z twice now and still hadn't asked for anything in return. She watched Ben set up a scanner, checking for movement. He moved with purpose, with skill. Tala realized something. Ben had seen this kind of thing before. He knew how her kind worked. He wasn't just some survivor. He was once part of something much bigger. After an hour, the ship finally drifted away. Disappearing behind a mountain, the hum faded, and the skies were quiet again. Ben turned to Tala. They'll be back, he said, and next time they might not miss. Tala sat in silence, trying to process everything her people had judged. Her child unworthy. And now, they didn't even look for her. She was just nothing to them. But not to Ben, not to Z. She stood and walked to Ben. "Why are you helping me?" she asked softly. Ben didn't look up, just kept working. "Because I couldn't help my own family," he said. "And I'm tired of watching people get left behind." His voice was quiet, but his pain was loud. Tala nodded slowly. She understood. Now, he wasn't just being kind. He was trying to fix something broken inside himself too. That night, Tala sat awake while Ben slept. She looked at her child, then at the man who had saved them again and again. The stars outside seemed cold, distant, but in this dark place, she had found a flicker of something she thought was lost, not just survival, but something like trust. Something like hope. *Z was burning up. His small body trembled under the blanket, sweat dripping down his pale skin. His breathing was shallow, chest rising and falling too fast. Tala sat beside him, holding his hand tightly, whispering soft words from her homeworld, but even her voice couldn't hide her fear. Her child was slipping away. Ben stood near the wall, fists clenched, staring at his old supply case. He had used the last of the basic medicine. Nothing else would work. Not now. The infection was deeper, stronger. Z didn't have hours. He had minutes. Tala looked up at Ben, her eyes begging. "Please," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "There must be something." Ben looked at the boy, then looked away. His face was tight, jaw locked. There was something, but it came with a price. "There's one place," Ben said at last, "a medical lab. Deep under the ruins, human tech, advanced stuff Phalian too." Tala's eyes lit up. "Then let's go," she said quickly. But Ben didn't move. He shook his head slowly. "It's not that easy. The lab wasn't just dangerous. It was cursed with memories Ben had buried long ago. It was where he lost his team, where the machines turned on them. He had sworn never to go back, but Z was dying. And Ben had broken every rule except this one. Until now, he turned and picked up his rifle. Checking the magazine, his hands moved. Quickly, but his eyes were filled with ghosts. "If I'm not back by sunrise, take the emergency pack and run east," he said firmly. "There's an old tower near the ridge. Someone might pick up a signal." Tala stood up, shaking her head. "No," she said, "you won't go alone." Ben looked at her, surprised, but then he saw the fire in her eyes, the fire of a mother who had nothing left to lose. "Still," he said, "you'll only slow me." Down. Tala didn't argue. Instead, she knelt beside Z, kissed his forehead, and whispered something in her own language. Then she stood and said, "Come back with what he needs, or don't come back at all." Ben nodded once, then turned and vanished into the dark. The ruins were silent as death. Ben moved fast, sticking to shadows, passing burned-out cars, cracked streets, and broken glass. The city remembered everything: the screams, the fire, the betrayal. He reached the old hospital building, half buried under rubble and vines. The doors were long gone, but the elevator shaft still worked barely. He climbed down level by level, heart pounding with each creak of the steel. Finally, he reached the bottom floor. Lights flickered in the distance, running off backup power. Security drones floated near the ceiling, still active, still deadly. Ben moved like a ghost, keeping low, using old codes on his wristband. Most of them still worked. He passed through a long corridor lined with sealed doors. One door blinked green: the lab. Inside, shelves were full of cryo kits, scanners, hybrid tools. He didn't waste time. He grabbed what Z needed: synth antibiotics, tissue regrowers, neural cleansers. But as he turned to leave, something on the wall caught his eye: a screen, still active, playing a recording. Curious, Ben tapped it, and it played a file marked Zilani Trials. Human subjects, what he saw turned his blood cold. Images of aliens studying human prisoners. Using them for testing, mixing DNA, building something. New one file showed Tala species giving orders. Another showed a young human boy. His eyes looked like Ben's son. Ben slammed his fist into the wall, rage boiling in his chest. He wanted to destroy everything. But then he remembered Z. The boy didn't choose any of this. He was innocent, just like Ben's family had been. Ben ran back through the tunnels, avoiding the drones, slipping through the darkness. His leg was bleeding from a sharp fall. But he didn't stop. By the time he reached the shelter, the sun was rising. Pale light stretching across the rubble. Tala rushed to him, her hands shaking as she helped him inside. "Did you get it?" she cried. Ben didn't speak. He just handed her the case. "Work fast," he said. "He's still in there." Together, they treated Z, following the instructions on the medkits. The boy twitched, moaned, then went still. Tala's breath caught in her throat. Ben reached out and placed a hand on Z's chest, waiting, hoping. Then a small breath, then another. Z's eyes fluttered open, just a little. Tala broke down, her tears falling silently on his skin. Ben leaned back, exhausted, bleeding. But alive, Z was alive too, because the human had broken his last rule. And because, deep down, he still believed saving one innocent life was worth everything. Ben collapsed by the fire, breathing hard. Blood dripped from the cut on his leg. But he didn't care. Z was safe, and that was all that mattered. Tala sat beside her son. Watching his chest rise and fall, each breath felt like a small miracle. But she could feel something was wrong. Not with Zeb, with Ben. His face was pale, his eyes distant, like he was there but not really there. He stared into the flames as if they showed him something only he could see. Something painful. Something buried deep. Tala moved quietly. Wrapping a cloth around his leg to stop the bleeding, Ben didn't even flinch. That scared her more than anything. "Thank you," she said softly. "You saved him." Ben didn't answer. Instead, he spoke without looking at her. "I saw it," he whispered. "I saw what your kind did to my people." Tala froze. "What did you see?" she asked gently. Ben finally turned to her, eyes cold and tired. "A lab," he said. "Like the one I went to, except we weren't the scientists. We were the test subjects." He pulled a small device from his Pokita data chip. He threw it toward Tala, and it landed near her foot. She picked it up and looked at it. "I didn't know," she said quietly. Ben laughed once, but there was no humor in it. "You didn't need to," he said. Your people still walked away. The fire popped, sending a shower of sparks into the air. Tala sat across from him, holding the chip tightly. She wanted to say something, but the words wouldn't come. How could she defend something so cruel? How could she explain that she hadn't been part of it? That she had been just another pawn in someone else's war? Ben leaned back, closing his eyes. "I had a family," he said. "After a while, a wife, a son. They were taken. I don't even know if they're dead or still out there somewhere. They just vanished." Tala felt the pain in his voice. It wasn't loud, but it was deep. The kind that never really goes away. She moved closer, slowly, not to touch him, but to listen, because no one had listened to him in a very long time. "I joined a rescue team after that," Ben continued. "We tried to find survivors, track the Zilani ships, but we were always too late. One day, we found a lab, like the one I went into yesterday, but that one wasn't empty." He paused, his breath catching for a second. "There were bodies," he said, "human and alien, and there was a boy. He looked just like my son, but it wasn't him. Still, I couldn't leave him there." Tala whispered, "What happened?" Ben opened his eyes, staring into the fire. "He died on the way out," he said. Too much damage inside, too late to save him. Silence filled the room like smoke. Tala felt her throat tighten. Z was sleeping peacefully beside them. But the room was heavy with sorrow. She finally spoke, voice soft and honest. "We were told humans were dangerous," she said. "Wild, cruel, emotional. But you're not. You're something else." Ben gave a tired smile. "Just a little one. Emotional, yes," he said. "Cruel, sometimes, but not heartless." Tala looked down at Z. "He wouldn't be alive without you," she said, "and you wouldn't have gone back to that place unless you still believed in something." Ben nodded slowly. "I believe in making it mean something," he said. "If I let your boy die, then I've lost everything." The fire burned lower, the flames now. Soft and slow, Tala stood up and walked to the small kitchen shelf. She pulled out one of her own ration packs. She opened it and handed it to Ben. "Eat," she said. "You need strength too." He took it without a word. And for the first time since returning, he looked her in the eyes. Not with anger, not with pain, but with understanding. A quiet truce that night. While Z slept between them, Tala stayed awake. She watched Ben as he finally drifted off. His face calm for once. She saw the scars on his arms. The old burns, the deep cuts, wounds from battles long past, some physical, some not. They hadn't just broken his body. They had broken his heart, but he still fought, he still saved, he still hoped. And now? Tala knew something for sure. This human was not like the others her people had feared. This one was different. And maybe, just maybe, he was the only reason. Her child still had a future. Z's body went still again. His breath stopped, just for a moment. Too long. Too quiet. Tala froze, eyes wide with fear. "Z?" she whispered, shaking him gently. His lips were pale, his skin cold. "No, no." "Please," she cried, panic filling her voice. Ben was already moving. He grabbed the scanner from the shelf and placed it against the boy's chest. No heartbeat. He muttered, pressing harder. He opened a med case, pulling out a shock tool, a desperate shot. One more try. He placed the tool over Z's heart and pressed the trigger. The small device buzzed, lighting up blue. Z's body jerked. Once, then again. Then a faint breath escaped his lips, barely there. But it was something. Tala fell to her knees, tears pouring down her face. But her relief lasted only seconds. The scanner showed a red warning. His brain activity is dropping. Ben said, his voice low and sharp, "He needs more than meds now." He stood, pacing, thinking fast. "There's one more option," he said, "but it's not safe. It's something from the lab. A prototype, not tested, not legal, not even finished." Tala stood too, holding Z close. "What is it?" she asked. Ben looked at her, eyes full of doubt. "A serum," he said, "experimental. Made from both human and alien cells. It's supposed to repair damaged organs. But it's unstable." Tala didn't blink. "Then give it to him," she said. Ben hesitated. "If it goes wrong, it could make things worse," he said. "It could kill him." She stepped forward, her voice breaking but clear. "Then give it to me instead." Ben stared at her, confused. "What are you talking about?" "I offer my life," she said, her hands shaking. "If it can help him, then take. My body, my blood, my cells, anything. Just save my son." Ben was silent. He had seen people offer money, food, weapons, but never their own life. Never like this. "You'd die for him?" Ben asked. Though he already knew the answer, Tala nodded without pause. "I would die 1,000 times," she said, "if it meant he could live once." Ben took a deep breath. "No," he said firmly. "You're his mother. He needs you alive. There's another way." He turned to his workbench and pulled out the prototype serum. A glowing vial, blue and green swirling like a storm inside glass. He grabbed a stabilizer tube and started mixing. If we add one more element, he said, we might lower the risk. What element? Tala asked quickly. Ben looked at her, then pointed to his own arm. Human blood, he said. From someone who survived radiation, infection, trauma, someone like me, you'll give your blood. Tala asked, shocked. Ben nodded. I won't let another child die. Aka. He said, not if I can stop it. The machine buzzed. And the final serum glowed steady blue. Ben filled a small injector, then walked to Z's side. Tala held her son. Whispering to him softly, Ben knelt beside them. This is his only chance, he said. Tala nodded, eyes locked on her child's face. Do it. Ben injected the serum slowly, carefully, then stepped back. Holding his breath, 1 second, 2, Z twitched, his eyes fluttered, and then he screamed loud and sharp, Tala. Jumped back, startled, but Ben held her. It's good, he said. He's fighting. Z's body calmed, his color returning. The scanner beeped green. Showing signs of recovery, his heartbeat grew stronger. His brain activity rising. He wasn't just alive, he was healing. Fast, Tala collapsed beside him, kissing his forehead over and over. She looked up at Ben, unable to speak. He gave her a tired smile. He'll make it, he said. But we'll need to watch him later as the night grew quiet. Tala sat by the fire. Ben was nearby, fixing his tools with one hand and holding a bandage over his arm with the other. You hurt yourself for us, she said softly. Ben shrugged. I've had worse, he said. But this one feels worth it. Tala reached out and placed her hand on his. Thank you, she said. Ben looked into her eyes. For once, he saw. Not an alien, not the enemy, but a mother, a fighter, a soul as tired as his, and maybe something more. The first thing Z said that morning was, I'm hungry. His voice was rough, weak but alive. Tala laughed and cried at the same time. She hugged him so tightly, he squeaked. Ben smiled from across the room, sipping old instant coffee. You're gonna be just fine, kid, he said. It had been 4 days since the serum. Z had recovered faster than either of them expected. His energy was returning. His smile, too. The boy who once couldn't lift his head was now chasing bugs. Outside the shelter, and for the first time in what felt like forever, the world felt quiet. Safe, Tala stood beside Ben as they watched Z play near the burned trees. She breathed deeply, letting the fresh air fill her lungs. It no longer smelled like war. It smelled like peace, like life. Ben handed her a small piece of bread. Rations are low again, he said, but I think I can hunt something tomorrow. Tala nodded. I'll come with you, she said. Ben raised an eyebrow. You sure? She smiled. I've been running long enough, she said. It's time to start walking forward. But peace never lasted long in places like this, as the sun reached its peak. A crackling sound came from the far side of the shelter. Ben rushed inside and picked up an old radio. Static buzzed through it. Then a voice, faint, broken, human. This is Station Delta 9, it said. Open call to any survivors. Repeat, any survivors. Respond. Ben looked at Tala. Her expression was unreadable. It was what they had both wanted, proof that they weren't alone. But it also meant change, risk, and choices. Big ones, I can take you there. Ben said quietly. It's a few days north. They'll have food, medicine, protection. Tala glanced at Z, who was now asleep under a blanket in the sun. Then she looked at Ben. And what about you? She asked. Ben shrugged. I don't know yet, he said. I wasn't planning on surviving this long. The words hung in the air like a shadow. Tala stepped closer. her voice firm but gentle. "You're not alone anymore," she said. "You don't have to just survive. You can live." Ben looked down, then nodded slowly. "Let's pack," he said. They set out at dawn. With Z riding in a small cart Ben had built from scrap, the road was broken, wild with plants and silence, but it was also beautiful. The world was healing. Little by little, just like them, at night they made fires and told stories. Z asked about Earth before the war. Tala told stories from her own world of crystal lakes and trees that glowed. Ben listened, then told stories of his wife, his son. Not in sadness anymore, but in memory, in peace, on the third day. They saw it, a tall tower rising above the forest, surrounded by lights and walls. Humans walked the walls, weapons in hand, but eyes calm. Ben waved a cloth on a stick. One of the guards shouted, approaching survivors. "Stay where you are." Tala tensed, grabbing Z's hand. Ben held her shoulder gently. "It's okay," he said. "They'll listen to me." A gate opened, and 2 officers stepped out. They looked at Ben, then at Tala and Z. There was a long pause, then one said, "She's not human." Ben nodded. "No, she's not, but she's with me." The officer stared at him, and the kid. Ben took a step forward. "He's with me too," he said firmly. "They stay out, I stay out." The guards looked at each other, whispered something. Then, "All right," one of them said, "let's get them checked and cleared." Inside the gates, there were buildings, gardens, laughter, people living, not hiding. Not fighting, living. Z ran ahead, chasing a dog. Tala stood still, staring at the place. "Is this real?" she asked softly. Ben smiled. "As real as it gets," he said. Later that night, they were given a room, a bed, real food. Z fell asleep fast. Wrapped in a blanket that smelled like soap, Tala stepped outside and found Ben sitting alone, watching the stars. She sat beside him. "I thought I'd never feel safe again," she whispered. Ben looked at her. "I thought I didn't deserve to." They sat in silence for a while. Then Tala said, "I thought I lost everything." Ben nodded. "Me too. But maybe," she continued, "we found something better. Not a ship, not a rescue, but a home." Ben didn't say anything. He just reached out, and for the first time, she didn't pull away.